Some people are born into wealth. I was born into debt. They didn't just take my father's money, they took the future I had bled for, replacing my white coat with a collar of gold. The sterile smell of rubbing alcohol clung to my scrubs, a scent of promise, a scent of control, a scent of the life I was fighting to claim. I leaned against the cold cinder-block wall of the hospital stairwell, the weight of a 72-hour shift pressing down on my shoulders. At 24, I should have been planning my next rotation. Instead, I was juggling the emergency shift schedule with my final pathology classes, trying to keep my head above water. The tuition payment was 3 months overdue. The eviction notice sat unopened in my inbox, and my father's desperate phone calls had become as reliable as his latest catastrophic failure. "Ricardo," I called, pushing open the apartment door. The familiar, sickly sweet smell of cheap tobacco mixed with fear and desperation hit me immediately. "Please tell me you sold the car, Dad. Just the car. It will get us through the month." Ricardo sat hunched over the kitchen table, a half-empty bottle of tequila serving as his shield. At 50, he looked 10 years older, his once sharp eyes now bloodshot and vacant. "Anita, mihija," he slurred, not bothering to look up. "You're home. It's past midnight. I worked the trauma ward, remember? The one I need to stay in to secure my surgical residency?" I dropped my heavy canvas bag containing my anatomy textbook and surveyed the wreckage that was supposed to be our home. Empty liquor bottles lined the windowsill like monuments to his lost chances. I knew the words that needed to explode. "Stop gambling. Show up to the factory sober. Stop drinking away my entire future." For the first time that evening, he looked at me directly. His face, so similar to mine, was etched with a profound, terrifying guilt. "You think it's that simple, Anita? You think I haven't tried? Some debts you can't pay back with money, mihija." The way he said it, quiet and absolute, made me pause. The bottle of antiseptic I was holding halfway to the counter. "What debts, Papa? What are you talking about?" But he had already retreated into the alcohol-fueled haze that had become his chosen reality. At exactly 1:17 a.m., someone began pounding on our door. Not knocking, but a demanding, measured beat that echoed through the building. Ricardo went instantly rigid, the color draining from his face so quickly that he looked like a corpse. His glass slipped from his nerveless fingers, shattering against the tile floor, sending tequila and sharp glass in every direction. The door opened without permission, the lock clicking with surgical precision. 3 men in suits that cost more than my yearly tuition entered first. Then came the 4th man, who made the air itself feel thinner. Dominic Navarro moved like violence wrapped in Italian wool. Sharp jaw, cold gray eyes, charcoal suit, everything about him was calculated and lethal. He catalogued our pathetic apartment in seconds. "Ricardo Garcia," he said, his voice smooth as poison. "You've been avoiding my calls." My father couldn't stand. "Mr. Navarro, I just need more time." "You've had 18 months. Those gray eyes shifted to me. "And this must be Anita, the medical student working herself to death for a future her father gambled away." "I don't know what my father owes," I said, forcing strength into my exhausted voice. "But we can arrange payments." $3 million. He said it casually. "Tell me, how many shifts would that take?" The number crushed me. Impossible. Completely impossible. That's not... He couldn't have... Dominic spread documents across our table like evidence at trial. 18 months of casino debts, private poker games, sports betting. Your father has expensive tastes and catastrophic judgment. Ricardo's sobbing filled the silence. "Take everything we own," I begged. "Take the apartment, the car. I don't want your furniture." His eyes fixed on me with predatory focus. "I want something of actual value." He opened a second folder. My name was embossed on the front. Inside were my medical school acceptance letter, my residency contract, my transcripts with their perfect 4.0. "Impressive," he said. "Top 5%, already published. Dr. Morrison calls you the most promising trauma resident he's seen in a decade." He looked up. "Tell me, how does it feel to have bled for something so completely?" "Don't. Please." Dominic picked up my acceptance letter to Mount Sinai's advanced surgical program and began tearing it into precise strips. "No!" I lunged forward, but his man caught my arm. I watched him destroy 6 years of sacrifice. "Your father's debt is cleared," he said, letting the pieces fall. "I'm taking your future instead. Every dream, every plan, it all belongs to me now. If you can't stand people who exploit others' desperation to build their own empire, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Type, "Nobody deserves that," because what happened next only got worse. Dominic pulled out his phone. "Dr. Morrison, regarding Anita Garcia, she'll need to withdraw immediately. Family emergency. Yes, effective immediately. 7 years vanished in a 30-second call." "I can't erase someone's entire career," I whispered. "I just did. Every institution in this city takes donations from my foundation. Your records will become complicated. Transcripts missing, recommendations withdrawn. Your brilliant future will evaporate." He stepped closer. "But I'm offering a substitution. Your father's life for your complete cooperation. You'll live in my home, attend events as my companion, learn to operate in my world. You'll do it with a smile, because the alternative is watching your father die slowly as an example." "You're taking everything?" "I'm giving you real power. The question is whether you're smart enough to recognize it." Dominic's penthouse was all sharp angles and cold precision. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, everything white, black, or chrome. A useless prison. "Your room," he gestured. "You'll find appropriate clothing. Tomorrow we have meetings with my accountants, lunch with the hospital board, and a charity gala." The same board that destroyed my career? The same board that will now see you as my partner. He handed me a tablet. "Your contract. Read carefully." Pages of legal language spelling out my servitude. I would be his public companion, maintain discretion, present myself as willing. In exchange, my father would live, my loans would be paid, and I'd receive a monthly stipend exceeding a resident's salary. And if I refuse? Your father dies by morning, and your credentials get flagged for fraud. You'll spend a decade in legal battles while your dreams decompose in prison. He said it without emotion. Or be smart. Sign. Learn to thrive. I signed. That night at 3 a.m., I tried to escape. I made it to the lobby before 6 men surrounded me. They escorted me back upstairs where Dominic waited, still dressed. Disappointed, he said quietly. I thought you were smarter. He showed me footage, weeks of surveillance showing every move. I've been watching you for 3 months, learning your patterns. Your father's debt was an opportunity, but this was never about money. It was about you. Someone with your intelligence doesn't waste it saving ungrateful patients. You transform it into something that changes the world. You're insane. I'm ambitious. And now, so are you. The Astoria Museum Gala was where the elite congratulated themselves on generosity while wearing fortunes. Dominic had me in a midnight blue gown worth more than a semester's tuition. You're here by choice, he instructed. Fascinated by my business, charmed by my sophistication, devoted to our philanthropy. Manage that? I learned fast, I said through a knife-blade smile. I played my part perfectly, smiled at the hospital board who'd ended my career, laughed with politicians taking his money, discussed foundation initiatives with passion I'd once reserved for actual medicine. Then I met Vadim. He stood by the champagne fountain, watching with amused detachment. Where Dominic was sharp angles, Vadim was calculated charm. His suit cost as much, but he wore it like he'd been born to it. Anita Garcia, he approached smoothly. The medical prodigy who gave up surgery for philanthropy. Quite the career change. Life is full of surprises. Indeed. Though I wonder what surprise convinces someone to abandon 7 years overnight. He handed me champagne. Vadim Kozlov, import-export, among other things. A rival, then. Someone who understood exactly what I was. I knew a girl once with dreams like yours. Smart, ambitious, determined to save the world. She made the mistake of getting involved with the wrong man. A man who saw her potential and decided to own it. Last I heard, she's in his Moscow compound. Medical license revoked, spirit broken. The message was clear. I wasn't the first woman Dominic had collected. Dominic appeared. Vadim, I didn't realize you were invited. I go where interesting people are. Vadim smiled with all teeth. We were discussing sacrifices people make for family, quite touching. The tension was war barely contained. Excuse us, Dominic said, his hand tightening on my arm. As we left, Vadim called out, Miss Garcia? If you need a different perspective on your situation, I'm an excellent listener. Some debts aren't as ironclad as they appear. 3 days later, I used a stolen burner phone to call Professor Chen, my research mentor. Anita, thank God! What happened? The hospital said you withdrew, but there are questions about your academic integrity. My academic integrity? Someone filed complaints suggesting fabricated research data. Your transcripts are flagged. The dean opened an investigation. She sounded distressed. These accusations are false, but they're from someone with serious influence. Dominic hadn't just ended my career. He destroyed any chance of return. I need documentation proving the administration sealed your files pending investigation. I don't have access. She paused. Whoever's doing this is thorough. I ended the call, and found Dominic in the doorway. Stealing from me? You destroyed my credibility. Even if I escape, I have nothing. Exactly. You needed to understand. Your old life is gone, completely, irrevocably. He walked closer. I watched you drowning in your father's failures, so consumed with saving strangers you couldn't see you were destroying yourself. That was my choice. And you were choosing wrong. Your father's debt would have buried you eventually. I accelerated the inevitable and offered something better. He showed me documents for a new hospital wing in the city's poorest district. This is your project now. You'll design it, staff it, run it. You'll impact more lives in a year than an entire surgical career. I stared at the plans, hating how my mind immediately cataloged improvements. This doesn't make what you did okay. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm asking for your intelligence. Stop fighting and start building. If you believe that intelligence and talent shouldn't be owned like property, hit that subscribe button. People like Dominic won't. And you need to hear what I discovered about the debt that destroyed my life. The dean's message came hidden in a flower delivery. The debt was a lie. Ask me how. I met him at an anonymous coffee shop. He slid a folder across the table. Your father owed $500,000. Substantial, but not impossible. The remaining $2.5 million was added by Dominic. Fake gambling debts, fabricated interest, entirely manufactured to make the situation hopeless. The world tilted. $500,000 was manageable over time. $3 million was life-destroying. Why? Because Dominic doesn't collect debts. He collects people. He's obsessed with possessing someone with your intelligence and desperation. The debt was just the mechanism. Vadim leaned forward. You're not the first. A pianist in Prague, a physicist in Shanghai, a journalist in Cairo. He finds brilliant women, manufactures crises, transforms them into trophies. You're lying, that I knew he wasn't. I can get you out. Resources, safe houses, new identities. You'll never practice medicine under your name again, but you'll be free. He handed me a phone, or stay as his expensive pet. Your choice. I took the phone, but I didn't leave yet. I needed proof. I found Ricardo in a comfortable apartment, paid for by Dominic. He looked healthier than I'd seen in years. Does Dominic know you're here? He asked nervously. Tell me about the real debt, not the $3 million fairy tale. His face crumbled. You knew it, I whispered. You knew he inflated it. He came 3 months before that night. He confessed through tears. Said he'd been watching you, that he was fascinated. He offered to pay my real debts, all $500,000, if I played along. If I helped create a situation desperate enough that you had no choice. And you agreed? You sold me? He said he'd kill me, and he promised to take care of you, give you opportunities you'd never have as a struggling resident. He said he loved you. You chose your safety over my freedom, over my entire future? I chose what would keep us both alive. I understand perfectly. Every sacrifice I made for you was wasted on a coward. I turned to leave. Stay away from me. Whatever debt I owed you as your daughter, it's paid in full. Comment, nobody deserves betrayal like this. The cowardice can't win. Now watch what happens when she finally fights back. I spent the next week playing perfect captive while searching for proof. I found it in Dominic's office. Files deliberately left unsecured. Bank transfers showing the inflated debt. Communications with Ricardo. Notes in Dominic's handwriting. Subject shows remarkable resilience. Medical training provides excellent foundation. Father's cooperation secured. Proceed with acquisition plan. Acquisition plan. Like I was real estate. I photographed everything and sent it to Vadim. His response came immediately. Received. Meet me at the warehouse on Pier 9 tomorrow at midnight. I'll have everything ready for your extraction. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt cold certainty. The files were too easy to find. Dominic had been too absent this week. That night, I confronted him. He was reading, as if waiting. You let me find those files. You knew everything. Of course. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you stealing a phone, meeting my enemy, searching my files? He closed his book. I wanted to see what you'd do, whether you'd run or be smart enough to question the offer. This was a test? Everything is. Vadim wants to destroy me. Taking you would be a significant blow, but you're too intelligent to be just a pawn. I needed to know if you'd recognize that. And if I had run, then I would have been disappointed, and you'd have learned Vadim's freedom involves a different cage, where you'd feed him information until you had no value, then become a liability to eliminate. You're lying. Then go to Pier 9. Walk into the warehouse. But ask yourself, if he wanted to save you, why an abandoned warehouse instead of public? Why dramatic midnight timing? Why hasn't he gone to the authorities with evidence of my crimes? Because it was a trap. Vadim didn't want to save me. He wanted to use me as bait. I was just a weapon in someone else's war. The attack came at 11:30 p.m. They hit the building with military precision, cutting power, breaching from 3 entry points. Vadim wasn't rescuing me. He was killing Dominic. Gunfire erupted. I found Dominic in his office, blood spreading across his white shirt from a shoulder wound. 2 men were down. You should hide, he said, voice tight with pain. Instead, I grabbed his medical kit. 7 years of training took over. That's a subclavian wound. You bleed out in 10 minutes. I packed the wound while my mind raced through tactical options. My anatomical knowledge became weaponized data. When Vadim's men breached, I was ready. The first got a sedative syringe to the neck. The second got alcohol spray to the eyes and an IV stand to the temple. Vadim appeared, gun raised, shocked. Anita, step away from him. You tried to use me as bait. You were going to let me walk into that warehouse and either kill me or hold me hostage. I stood between them, hands bloody. You want the difference between you and him? Dominic was honest about what he took. You pretended to offer freedom while planning to make me a corpse. He destroyed your life, and you were going to end it. At least he gave me a choice about what comes next. Sirens cut the night. Dominic's reinforcements. Vadim's window closing. He looked at me with disappointment, then retreated. When the chaos settled, I sat beside Dominic while medics finished my work. You saved my life, he said quietly. Why? Because killing you would have left me vulnerable to Vadim. Because the enemy I know is preferable to the one pretending to be a savior. I met his eyes. And because you were right.
I was drowning in my father's failures. If I'm going to sacrifice everything, it should be for something that actually matters. And the hospital wing is just the beginning. You wanted to own my future. Fine, but I'm using every resource you have to build something that outlasts both of us. You get your trophy, I get to change the world at a scale I never could have achieved alone. I leaned closer. But understand this, I'm not your captive anymore. I'm your partner. And if you ever try to control me like before, I'll use everything I've learned to destroy you from the inside out.
For the first time, Dominic Navarro smiled genuinely. He said, "There she is, the woman too brilliant to save one patient at a time." I said, "Don't mistake pragmatism for loyalty." He said, "I wouldn't dream of it. Pragmatism is far more valuable." 6 months later, the Garcia Navarro Medical Center opened in the city's poorest district, the most advanced trauma facility in the state, staffed by doctors I'd recruited, equipped with technology I'd fought for. I stood at the opening ceremony in a suit that cost more than my old car, my name on the building beside the man who destroyed my old life to create this new one. The press called me a philanthropist. The medical community called me an enigma. Dominic's rivals called me a collaborator. I called myself a survivor who'd learned that sometimes the only way to win is to stop fighting the cage and start making it your own. I'd wanted to save lives as a surgeon. Instead, I was saving thousands through systems and resources I'd never have accessed alone. I'd wanted the white coat and respect. Instead, I wore designer suits and commanded rooms full of people who would never have listened to a resident. I'd lost my future, and in losing it, I'd found something far more dangerous: power without illusion, ambition without apology, and the cold understanding that sometimes the color of gold is just another kind of crown. Anita Garcia died the night Dominic Navarro shredded her acceptance letter, but Anita Navarro, she was built to reign in the darkness.